I'm just kidding. It was just an option in Zencaster.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's also dramatic piano. Today, in remote Ruby.
In my Ruby diary.
Anytime you make a sweet joke.
Oh, there you go. Does it have a vuvuzela?
No. And then the other one, these are like pre-configured options. I guess they store to like local storage because I'm on a new computer now and they showed back up. And so there's also this one for all the Major League Baseball we talk about.
There we go. We can have Major League Ruby Gems or something.
We should. There's like, you can add your own and remove these. I want to like go through old keynotes and like get some like DHH clips we can just play.
That'd be good. Yeah.
There's like a bunch of like FUs. Just click. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. Been just busy screencasting all week. How about you?
I've been working with Stimulus more and ooh la la. And then I've also been working on a polymorphic self-referencing relationship.
That sounds interesting. How is it possible that it's self-referencing and polymorphic? Because if it's referencing itself, wouldn't it already know what class it is?
So you still have to do like, it's a has many association. So it's like comment has many comments.
Okay.
As commentable.
Okay. Yeah. We did that for the Go Rails comment series that I did recently. That was, I rebuilt like nested comment threads in various different ways. So
cool. Yeah,
anybody that's been watching Go Rails will know exactly what we're talking about.
It's been a thing. It works pretty well. It's just like querying's been a little difficult because like I want to get not only just like comments that belong to some other type of model, but I also want to get all the comments that belong to comment of that model. So it's like I get a little further and then like I throw up and then I get a little further and then I sob. And then, so I'm hoping today to get that done. Yeah,
that's definitely a fun one. I had a lot of fun with that because I was like trying to clone, the standard discuss comment threads and things. And then I also did like, are you familiar with Reddit's comment threading where they have like a kind of an infinite amount of nesting you can do, but then they cut it off at like 10 replies or something and they have a button to go read the next chunk. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen. Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah.
It's like show more and it takes you to another page.
Yeah. And so what's cool about that is like the way I structured it, at least, you click on that link and we just put the comment that you were clicking on in the URL. And then we load that instead of the main comments. So I have like the comment has a commentable and it has, and it also has a parent ID. And so the top level comments are the ones with no parent ID. And the parent ID represents another comment you're replying to. So then when we link to one of those sub pages, we just put that parent ID in our query and we're good to go. And so you can just like view any sort of chunk of 10 levels deep throughout the thread anywhere, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. This one, so like this is set up to where like right now we're only doing like single nesting, but like if we ever do want to expand, like following this type of relationship allows us to like do that infinite amount, which is really nice. And it's kind of like, there's no way I think around like the complexity of this type of relationship. And so like, I think that solution is like actually a really simple solution, all things considered.
Yeah, and that's kind of good because then you can always modify it a lot easier in the future.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been fun. Did you watch the RubyConf keynote?
I did
Tuesday?
not. I did
Okay.
not.
So this was my first RubyConf I've missed, or my first like Ruby Central conference I've missed since 2015. And so like, I was like, I gotta watch the keynote. And it was really good. So Matz talked about Ruby 3. We talked about like Ruby 6, Ruby 2, 7. Implicitly talked about 2.7 because he said the goal is Ruby 3 Christmas of 2020.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So that would mean that we have 2.6 this Christmas, and that leaves a gap year. So that would be like 2.7 next year. So yeah. And then he started talking about Ruby 4.
Like, hold on a second. We haven't finished Ruby 3 yet.
Yeah. And he brought up because Ruby 4 will be like a test because he's like starting to think about his retirement.
No.
Yeah. And so like, Ruby 4 is a test to see how well someone else or like some other group of people can like build out. And I don't know. He didn't like give a date for retirement, but I assume if that goes well, like can't be too shortly after that.
Yeah, he'll retire instantly.
His keynote was funny because it was like, do I give like, I think he either said like, do I give just someone or like a group, like just charge of the design? And he's like, no. That means that he's like, my next thought is, do I just make artificial intelligence that can do that? It's like, that's kind of funny.
That's great. Yeah, that's interesting to think about. Like when maintainers plan on retiring, that's I think a lot more rare because I know we all like to complain a lot about, these open source projects that never get any maintenance. And that happens because people are busy and they don't get any value out of a project they may have worked on 4 years ago for a project that they're not working on anymore. But something like Ruby, where he's working on it full time, that is pretty interesting to think about him planning his retirement and everything. Because obviously he's going to want it to continue down the same sort of mindset path. Like he's going to want Ruby to retain its culture in the long run. And that's hard. That's a very hard thing to do, to pick the right successors to pick up where you left off. That's crazy.
Yeah. The other thing he mentioned was like his plan, these are all like tentative dates, but his plan was for Ruby 4 in 2025.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes about right. So it would be like, what, 7 years then, I guess, if you consider a point release every, I guess, 8 years, 2.0 to 2.7.
Yeah.
Be about 8 years. That's interesting.
So, yeah, it's really fascinating. The other thing, too, is we know Ruby is not going to die at least for another 7 years. So, and I'm really like this. I was really, how do I say this? I really liked that he thinks about stuff like this. Like,
yeah,
like that makes me just like, it just affirms how I feel about Ruby and the entire like community and like the mindset behind it, that like, he has a plan. Like he wants to actually like not just retire, but like oversee somebody else giving it a shot. Like that's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah, me too. It's really cool because there's, I don't know, it's definitely a language that feels like it has much more of a culture to it. Like I didn't join Ruby when like Y was a part of the community, but like it just seemed like early days of Ruby were such a fun place to be. Um, and I
Yeah.
think that needs to be. We've lost a lot of that over the years as people come and go, but that he's still thinking about those things, and that's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. It just made me like, for all the times I think about like the future and like Ruby, I don't know. It's just nice to know that people are still like invested in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of, I mean, it's just not exciting anymore like it used to be. We don't have people drawing cartoons like Y did.
Right.
But we could use that still. And yeah, there's something special about the language. And I think it's this kind of stuff. It's not just looked at purely as a, programming language for performance. It's used as a language for humans to communicate with each other and with computers. I think that's what I really like about Ruby over other languages.
One thing that he mentioned, a couple of things that reminded me of my talk from like RubyConf last year about like Ruby not being dead. And like my kind of takeaway from the talk is like Ruby is not dead, but if you don't want it to die, like just keep doing things like for the community and things like that. Like build more stuff in Ruby. And he like mentioned some of those things, and that was like the most affirming thing for me ever. Like, heck yeah. Like
yeah.
So
yeah. That's what keeps it going,
It was a good keynote. If it's already online, I'll link it in the show notes. But yeah, other than that, just sad I wasn't in LA. But
yeah, well, speaking of conference talks being online, how are the Southeast Ruby ones doing?
so I got like 2 keynotes up, or 3 keynotes.
Okay.
And then
3 out of the 4?
There's only 3 keynotes, so maybe I got them all up.
Oh wait, yeah, I guess so.
But then my goal is to start posting more actually like today. I tweeted last week that I would try and start getting them up today, or just this week. So,
what's the kind of work you have to do those?
You have to, well, the way I do it, so we had like 2 separate feeds. So we had the video feed and then the actual slide feed. Have to put those like picture in picture. There's a problem where I think the slide device they were using like was off in certain places and like would sometimes like just go offline and speed up or slow down. So it's not just as simple as like dragging them in and lining them up.
Ooh, that's a pain.
Yeah, some of these talks, like Avi's keynote, I had to go through the whole thing, and like there were times where the slides would just say like no input. Whoops, sorry about that. And so what I would do is just like take a screenshot of his slide before it lost input and then just paste it over.
Oh yeah.
It's just,
I've done that many times in Go Rails.
Yeah, it's just time consuming. So
yeah, it's super time consuming, and you can easily miss them.
And so that's why, like, Shannon, my wife, has helped me with some of the videos, but I don't know. I'm gonna try and get some up today. Also thinking a lot about Southeast Ruby last night because RubyConf's gonna be in Nashville next year.
Yeah, that's exciting. When you tweeted at me, DM'd me, you slid into my DMs,
dude. Specialty.
Dude, I'm pretty excited about that because that's going to bring more eyeballs to Nashville. And, I think that's really good. And hopefully those people you can get to stick around or come back, to Nashville for Southeast Ruby. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. So Southeast Ruby will be in August and RubyConf will be in November.
Maybe you can convince them to stay from August to November. Yeah.
Here are some Airbnbs that do monthly rentals. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Like, I actually gasped when I read it last night. And I was like, Shannon, RubyConf's going to be in Nashville. And I was like so excited. Of course, I was devastated that they chose Nashville over Memphis. But
Wow. That's fair.
then I was like, oh, wait, we put a conference on like a couple of months before that. And so I think it'll be fun. My plan right now is to still do it.
Same dates and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've already announced the dates. I think I am going to try and I need to talk to Ernie, who helps me organize, but I'm thinking about trying to put some workshops in and maybe make it more appealing to people, if they can not only just leave with stuff from the talks, but actually leave with some technical knowledge.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I'm pondering. I just want to I'm thinking of ways to try and make it more of a value for people.
Sure. I really enjoyed it the last 2 years, so I think it's a good value regardless, and it will just be even better if you add some workshops.
So I have to figure out the logistics of that, but that was actually some feedback we got last year too, and I was like, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. Will they be like a breakout from the venue, in a different location, or will they be like a day ahead or in the evenings or something? You think they'll be
I don't know. I would think maybe day before, or maybe even if we could have multiple workshops, maybe 2 running side by side, we could do it during the conference. So take a break from talks and choose which workshop you want to go to.
Yeah, that could be good.
So I don't know. I'm going to try and think about that some more, and talk to Ernie about it. Ernie is the most insightful human being. Ernie Miller,
Yes.
co-organize Southeast Ruby. So yeah. Either way, though, pending that Shannon doesn't just magically have another kid next November, be making the drive to RubyConf in my home state, which I'm so excited for.
That'll be great. I may have to make it down for that one. That'll be nice and close.
I love Nashville. Not as much as I love Memphis, but I love Nashville.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Memphis and Nashville are rival cities. So sometimes we're brotherly love, and sometimes we're hate each other. So
yeah, when you're against cities outside your state, you guys are together, but rivalry within the state.
Yeah,
we've got that going on with St. Louis and Kansas City a bit.
Really?
A little bit, not a whole lot, but
yeah, I don't know. Nashville's just such a great city. Santa's Pub can't replicate anywhere. You didn't go to Santa's Pub, did you?
I didn't make it to Santa's Pub.
Oh, so for those who don't know, which is probably anyone who's ever listened to this, there is a double wide trailer that is Christmas themed karaoke bar year round. And it is a treat and should become a national landmark in the state of Tennessee.
I think you're going to end up owning it as the proprietor at some point.
That's my retirement plans. Anyway, back to programming things. So I told you I was working in Stimulus. I have some more thoughts on it.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So you mentioned last week that 1.2 proposal.
Yes, I haven't tried it yet.
I haven't tried it either, but I looked at it. They the proposed way of handling classes is adding another static property to the class.
Mm-hmm.
So you have targets and you say static targets and give it an array of strings that are
it just represents DOM nodes somewhere.
Yeah, that have data target on them. So you do the same thing with classes. I guess you would give it data class.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like to use it. At first I don't know that I saw much value in that.
So I can give some thoughts in there because
Sure.
Sam actually emailed me a while back because I made a bunch of stimulus controllers for Tailwind, and the thing that I wanted to do with my stimulus controllers was to build, for example, tabs, drop downs, just, modals, basic things that you would get from Bootstrap, but create them for Tailwind. And the thing with Tailwind is that you don't have components already. So with Bootstrap, you already have the CSS for your tabs, and they all have an active flag where you can tune, or you can turn on which tab is active and which content section is active. Well, you can't really, I guess you could manually create the same thing with Tailwind, but the thing is, if your components are actually dictating which classes you're adding and removing from your various targets, then it's going to tie it or couple it to your CSS and your framework. So the reason for those classes being dynamic is that's what I was doing in my examples that I sent over to Sam, where it was like, look, for this dropdown, I want to add these classes to it, but I may have another dropdown that I want to add different classes to or remove different classes. And so if I specify them in the HTML, I never ever have to modify the stimulus controller. And that is the whole point of, stimulus controllers anyways. They shouldn't have to be tied to the HTML in any way. And so that's making them unique to your CSS classes that you want to manipulate when certain actions happen. So that's kind of the point of making those definable through data attributes.
Okay, that makes sense. I pulled it up while we were talking about it. And because my first glance was, I just see these static classes, but then in terms of actually adding them or removing them, we're still just using JavaScript. Saying this dot element class list add or remove. But that makes sense because right now what I'm doing is actually defining those classes manually in those method calls.
Yeah, in your controller.
Right.
And then that, I originally did that and I was like, well, wait a minute, this couples everything together. And I want this controller to work for anyone's. And Tailwind was a great place to think about that stuff because everybody's navigation drop downs will be different. And so it was one of those cases where I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should never ever put any classes inside the controllers to make them properly reusable.
This makes way more sense. So, because when I saw it, I was thinking that the class names, the static class is equal and the actual what their names the GitHub has success or supported. I was actually thinking those have to match the name of the class, but they don't. And that just blew my mind because like everything, I don't know what I'm talking about. So,
and that's why you listen to us, right?
That's why I listen to us.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to have GoRail for free.
You're subscribed to one podcast, your own podcast.
No, I'm subscribed to 3 podcasts, and they just my phone's always you have a new podcast. I'm like, shut up, and just swipe away. I can't listen to podcasts while at work, and that's the majority of time I listen to stuff.
Yeah, I can't. I will tune in, and then my brain will tune out. Sometimes listening to a podcast while I'm working, because I work from home, it's good background noise, so it feels like there's other people working around me. But then it'll be an hour later and I'll be through a couple episodes and have no idea what I just listened to.
Yes, that is me to the T. The other thing I was going to say was Stimulus. So they kind of have it now. I really would like a better way. Once again, I don't know. I don't have the solution. But I'd like a better way to interact with other controllers. Excuse me. I'd like to be able to interact with other controllers a little bit easier. Because right now what you do is they have a method call and it's get controller by DOM element or something like that. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's a way to retrieve the controller instance for that. It's maybe not even an instance necessarily, but because they're all mutation observers. But yeah, it gives you sort of the controller JavaScript object that is controlling that DOM element wherever it is.
Yeah, and it works. Don't be wrong. Like it works, and my controllers are like pretty minimal. Like there's not a lot of functionality there, but there's a couple I would like to talk together. Sorry. And I feel like I'm kind of coupling to the DOM there.
Yeah, somewhat. As long as you can grab the, like the root element or something easily. I think that potentially there's some sort of like, with React or Vue, you have like your child components. Maybe there will be some sort of API in the future that has sort of a way for you to talk to the children. And so maybe you end up creating a controller that goes around all of the other ones or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it kind of
awesome. Because that was actually what I did was I just created like kind of a parent controller. And what I did was when the child controller would come into, it would do like it'd come into life, right? So it loads, and then there's life cycle methods like on connect or just like connect or whatever. And so what I do is I just take that and then I would bind that child controller to the parent. So like they could talk to each other.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it worked really well. But it would just be, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the solution, but I think you're onto something there. And the other thing, totally not related, is that, is it Sam Stevenson? Is that his name?
Yeah.
So nice in the GitHub like issues for it, because somebody has actually asked this question before and was like, hey, there's no solution right now, so I'm closing the issue, but feel free to continue the conversation. And I was like, that's just such a nice gesture.
That is nice, because a lot of times it's like, nope, that's not supported, closed. And you're like, okay. And, that seems to be the nature of people that tend to work at Basecamp, just nice people.
Yeah, I just thought that was so awesome. Once again, it's like Ruby, like Matt's thinking about his retirement, like just so thoughtful, like made me glad I was using Stimulus.
Yeah, I really appreciate that kind of stuff, It's so nice. You're reminding me how much I need to go back and I need to grab this branch and try the new Stimulus 1.2 proposal and see what refactoring it would add to my components, because effectively like this was the major piece. And the big problem was, the classes, sometimes it's not just one. And unfortunately, that class list API can only add or remove one item at a time or something. So then you have to split and loop through. And it was kind of annoying because then I had to have for loops everywhere for that stuff. And obviously I could, extract out that. But it's one of those things that probably is best extracted into Stimulus itself. But yeah, I'm excited to hear you've had sort of good experience with it as well.
It's been fun. Another thing that I wanted to bring up real quick too is that I mentioned I should have brought this up earlier. So I was mentioning kind of like building those queries for the polymorphic, like self-referencing relationship.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I was talking with Kyle Fox, my coworker, and I sent him like some of the code I wrote. He's like, Active Record's so smart. And I was like, it really is, because, it lazy evaluates. So like, I'm just like passing it stuff, and it just knows how to take that and turn it into like nested SQL and it just, I don't know. Like it's something I take for granted, I guess. I use it every day, but I forget like how powerful it is. And I know some people will probably disagree with me, but I really do.
Of course. I mean, the people who will disagree are generally ones that already know SQL really well and need to do a lot more complicated stuff, or want to write their own queries. But Active Record can do. You can create like a has many association, and then you can have like a version of that that's exactly the same but a different name, and then filters by some sort of we want all the active users, or all the active subscriptions, no canceled ones. And it's basically the exact same one. You just specify like class name is subscription, so we still want to hit the subscriptions table. We just want to also include this where query in the association always by default. Like, I love that stuff. It makes your code so easy. And if you just add some of these extra associations, you can save yourself a lot of time in your code. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's like I thought Active Record was so awesome when I was learning Rails, and then I just got used to using it. So like it's nice sometimes to just sit back and be like, man, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a couple more things to get to. We're already at the 30-minute mark, but what are you working on right now? There's something you're trying to release next week, right?
Yeah, I recorded and this is a funny story. Lynda.com reached out to me at one point about doing a Stripe course, and I had done some Stripe episodes on Go Rails. So I like redid this course, or these episodes in Go Rails into this course, and it's up on Lynda. But this was a while ago, and Stripe's changed a lot, and they added products and changed the way that cancellations work. So if you want to cancel immediately, you can call delete, but you can't anymore cancel at the end of the period through that. So they've changed a lot. So I have been trying to get this course re-recorded before Black Friday, so I can have a Black Friday sale on it. And we're going to basically this time around, rather than only covering Stripe subscriptions, we're going to cover like a shopping cart example. So one-time payments with that, then a subscription example. But I also am going to cover Braintree and PayPal using Braintree,
Of course,
and our PayGem that we've been working on for a long time that we never really released to the public yet. So I've been just like heads down trying to record as much as possible to get that course done, or at least done enough to, because I'm adding so much extra stuff to it this time around. I want to have at least the Stripe stuff finished before Black Friday, and then I'll add the Braintree stuff right afterwards if I have to. But it's looking good. It's a much better, like, deeper dive into Stripe and all of the stuff we've learned along the way, and getting all your webhooks set up so that you can get receipts and whatever. That's good stuff.
I'm so excited. Maybe we could like even 1.0 the gym soon.
Yeah, we probably could. But maybe that needs to be the baseball sound for us.
Yeah, good call.
Launching a new gem. It doesn't need to be like depressing music,
It's dramatic. It's like a big moment in our lives.
That's true.
I'm sorry. I'm really like clicking right now. That's exciting. And you're trying to do that for Black Friday. Where are you hosting it at?
Well, I happen to have a good friend of mine that we record a podcast together, and he works at a company called Podia.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I've really enjoyed using Podia. Like, obviously, you guys have made it really easy to upload a course or whatever, and it's just a good group of people you got there, which I really like.
It's awesome. I came home last night. Shannon and I went on a date, and I came home and I had a package, and I was like, I'm not expecting a package. And I opened it up, and my coworker Jamie, his wife, made a stuffed animal for our new son. And then,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then his whole family like signed the card and sent it to us all the way from Ireland. And I was like, this is the sweetest thing.
Wow. That's great. Like, that's the kind of coworkers you really want to have,
it was awesome. So, I have one last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I may need you to like talk me off my horse right now because
Is this where we put in the dramatic music?
so I've been thinking about so I bought a new computer, I bought a new desktop. I actually bought an iMac, and I haven't had a desktop in a long time because I really like having one computer that everything's on, but I less liked all the clutter that came with on my desk. Because
Download life.
yeah, and I just had like all these peripherals. Like I had a dock, and then I had to have speakers and a monitor, and like then I had to have a camera, and then I have this podcast mic. So I was like, nah, this is getting a little out of hand. Plus, I just like iMacs, but I was like, well, I'll sell my laptop and get a new one. And then I was like, why don't I buy an iPad instead? So I've been testing. I bought it's called Mosh, and it's an SSH client for the iPad, and it'll like handle drop connections and things like that, just like resume automatically. So what I did was I enabled SSH on my desktop, and then SSH into my desktop and could code that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I know a lot of people buy like a VPS and then, SSH into that from their iPad or something to work.
Yeah. And so like for me, the benefit is my normal environment's already there, and I don't have to worry about like syncing up files because like to test it out last night, like I downloaded a Git repo that I have. And then I like went to my computer and it was just there because I was like, I bundled installed everything from the iPad. So
that's cool.
I don't know. I'm thinking with Apple's extended holiday return period right now, trying it out.
That's not a bad idea. I like it. The new iPads look great.
They're faster than my current MacBook Pro.
Yeah, the problem is just it's a handicapped operating system.
That's the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah. Chrome isn't going to be quite as good and those little things. So that would be my only concern with it is like, that little stuff of like, okay, well, what if you need to open up the JavaScript console to test some JavaScript you're writing? Well, you probably can't really easily do that from your iPad.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a VLC or VNC.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like things like that I'm thinking through. Because I'm thinking about just getting a MacBook Air because like I will only use this when I'm out, and I'm not out that much except when I travel.
Yeah, you're at Santa's pub quite a bit though, right?
Yeah, I mean, sitting outside smoking cigarettes with pepper.
Speaking of, we got like 5 or 6 inches of snow not yesterday, the night before that.
Gee.
So it feels like Santa's here already.
We got a half an inch and the entire city of Memphis just shut down.
That's kind of how it was when we were at a half an inch, and then it just kept going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. The new MacBook Airs look awesome. I've still got a really old MacBook Air that I absolutely love just because how light it is. And yeah, I have an iPad, and I still would prefer to use that MacBook Air, even though it's way slower. It's just got a real operating system.
That's the thing I'm worried about. Like this is, I know of a couple of people who've like tried this. It would be a pain to be like my daily driver. But this would mostly be for like I'm traveling and like something broke. I can just hop in and fix real quick, or
would it be easier if you just created an AI to do the work for you?
I don't know about easier.
Maybe you could borrow Matz's AI.
Anyway, so by the time we talk next week,
you'll have an AI ready?
Yes. I will either have
a statement that just is like yes or no.
Yeah, my AI will be if something breaks while I'm traveling. It's just an automatic responder that's like, sorry, I'm traveling. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. It could be a horrible decision, or it could be an awesome decision. So, I don't know. I'll let you know.
I don't know. I'm skeptical, but I like the sort of real operating system deal a lot better. As much as I've thought about this in the past many times, and the iPad just it does not cut it. Not quite the same.
I know. It's so like, I'm just not, like when the iPad Pro came out, I was like, I wish I had a need for that. And then I was like, well, I could make a need, but I'll probably end up, if I'm guessing, I'll probably end up with a MacBook Air like long term. But
yeah.
I really like the idea right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tim Cook would appreciate if you bought at least one of each.
Yeah, I mean, they would. You know how those single computer sales like really affect their bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, they're depending on you to keep above $1 trillion.
Oh gosh. All right, man. Well, this has been good.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we will be back at some point next week, but since it's Thanksgiving and Black Friday, we may have a little bit of a schedule change.
Yeah,
we'll be here.
We'll drop it either earlier or record it earlier and drop it normally, or just be late. So, hey, but look at us. This is 3 weeks in a row. We are like, we're gonna stop.
We're getting it together, which, if you know us, is kind of surprising, right?
We're on the ball right now. So, all right, man. Have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.